Welcome back to the Better Learning Podcast. We are continuing our conversations at EDspaces in Columbus, Ohio. We hope you're enjoying this series, and let's dive back in. We are back on the Better Learning Podcast here at EDspaces in Columbus, Ohio. I'm extremely excited because we had a guest appearance where it was actually unplanned. We didn't plan this one. This is the first kind of unplanned one we've had. So we have Dr. Lennie Scott-Weber on the podcast here today. I'm going to let her do the introducing herself and just giving a little background on her. So Dr. Lennie Scott-Weber, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. And I'm happy to be here, Matt. But you asked me to sort of say a little bit about my background.
Yes,
as I always say at this vintage, I think I've done just about everything except be a dealer salesperson. So a longtime educator, to chair of 2 design schools, one in Canada and one in the U.S. But back to grad school, actually, as a mature student. And I was in healthcare design. So I took my master's in interiors and 2 minors in gerontology and human factors engineering, and my PhDs in behavioral psychology. And so I was on the healthcare track until my first professor was at Virginia Tech and the provost there, because my research is, the focus of the research, kind of research that I like to do is case study. Because, I've written surveys all day long, but I think it's what you think you do. And when you're sitting in situ in a social and anthropological setting, you see what people actually do. So my focus on that and the teaching of grad students was always in that genre of research, if you will. So they asked me to collaborate on doing instructional design spaces and do performance design standards. And through that process, I had an epiphany, and that changed my focus in my life and my career path. And I've never looked back. It just was like, oh my gosh, where healthcare settings need help. I said, holy cow, education really needs help. So I've tried my best along this career path. I've been, an educator in higher education and design schools. I ran the only education design studio in the country. My research also focused on how the environment impacts learner engagement, because engagement is a big factor in understanding how successful we are. And then I was able to take that research in different ways, at consulting on research as well. And then I had an opportunity to become part of what's now Staircase Learning, a founding director of that. So taking research off the shelf. And I think that was the biggest aha for me, going back as a mature student to grad school, because I said, environment behavior psychology was the most interesting thing I could have ever done. I like it sitting on a shelf, and the design communities who can actually put this data into practice. So everything I've tried to do has been research informed. I think there's so much knowledge, and if we're not using it, then shame on us. There's no reason to be doing the same thing we're doing over and over and over again. And so I'm pretty direct with my clients in education, because I say it's not okay, and particularly higher education. So my research focus initially was in higher education, so that's my practice. I'm not, I've never taught in K-12, and I honor all of my colleagues as educators, but we're still cloning the learning process. We're cloning the individuals that are there and making it age-specific as opposed to a content and competency specific. And the challenge is that the educators in their learning process are not taught space as a tool. Yeah. And so the work that I've done for 30 years is getting on soapboxes and trying to say, we have to stop this kind of thinking. And it's the same from the architectural side. You can't just know the word pedagogy. You have to know the differentiation of learning practices and what that means, because no one size fits all. That's the culture that you're going to have to design for. But if you don't have that intentional orientation into the modernization of space, 3 weeks' time, all that great furniture is going to wind up shoved against the wall, and you're going to go back to row by column seating, and you wonder why. Good. Because you don't know. Fair. And it's not fair. Well, you have this question in front of me that says, what principles guide you when you're designing spaces that truly put students at the center? My question and pushback is always, what is education all about? It's about helping people learn how to learn. And until we rephrase that or rethink that and really put that at the focus, As an educator years ago, you knew it all, but we don't know today. Everything's in that cell phone or that electronic device. You can look through that into the rest of the world, into the rest of the universe. So the question now becomes, how do we help each individual celebrate? So universal design is key for me. I think you should be able to navigate your built environment, period, no matter what your ability. I believe that neurodesign is a critical factor. And I also believe that the research on biophilic design is undeniable. So when we know more, we have to learn to do more and do better. And so for me, it's how do we truly put the student at the center? You just do. There's no excuse. You just do. You're not, it's not teacher-centered. It's learner-centered. But in healthcare, you can walk into any hospital and you can see it's truly patient-centered.
Yeah.
You can see it. We have a long way to go in our educational entities to see that it's truly.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you kind of answered this question. I'm kind of curious now too. I mean, we've got a long way to go, and I couldn't agree more with that. I guess looking into the future here with the radically student-centered approach, I mean, what do you think we could be doing now today to get to the point where we're ahead of the game a little bit more, 10, 15 years down the road? What advice do you have to our listeners?
I think it's really important that you bring the educators and the students into the conversation early and throughout the process. Space is not going to change behaviors. People do. But unless you bring that educator community along, you're not going to make the difference. Everyone has a curriculum. Every kind of school, higher education, K-12, whatever it is, you have a curriculum. So what? It's a baseline. And now you have the opportunity to allow that educator to be free in the way they want to help their students, their learners, in their care really excel. We're so controlling from the education leadership to the educators themselves. We don't know how to get out of our own way. So helping the educator understand that space is a tool and it'll actually make their lives easier. And so we have to think about this as a tool prop, I guess, in order to get there.
Yeah, no, and I think that was a great way to wrap it back around. You answered all the questions that I was going to ask too. So you did amazing. I just love learning from you and listening to you. So I just love the work that you're doing, and it's very inspiring to hear from you. So I love doing this. So
well, I love doing it, love sharing. I'm radically student-centered, for sure, in both students, because I care about both of them. But I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to share a little.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Matt. Take care.
Thanks for joining us for this special EDspaces edition of the Better Learning Podcast. We hope today's conversation sparked new ideas and reminded you just how powerful student-centered learning environments can be. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the podcast and share it with someone who's passionate about improving education. And as always, keep pushing forward, keep rethinking what's possible, and keep making learning better, one space at a time. We'll see you in the next episode.